Welcome to this video tutorial about how to set up a Microsoft SharePoint list in Microsoft SharePoint. If you want to find out information about how to add a SharePoint list or how you access a SharePoint list, you can check out the videos that are in the description of this video. But in this video, we are going to talk about the basics of setting up a SharePoint list. And so this is a video, this is the list called test list that I set up in one of those previous videos. When you first come and click into the list by using the site navigation on the left, this is a very basic list. It's going to give you the title column, and then it's going to give you the chance to add columns. So all SharePoint lists come with the feature for the title column. And so, that's great, but it's not super functional for the way people want to manage their projects. So you'll want to get straight to the business of adding columns for collecting and managing data. So along the top here, you're going to see some options that we'll use in later videos about how you add new list items. Currently, we can't really add any new items because we haven't set up our list the way we want it to be set up yet. We could add just a title only. So we'll skip over that for now. Once we get the list built and we want to add items more quickly, you can do a quick edit. You can export the list to Excel once you've created it. And then there's some other options for improving workflows and capabilities. You can make a Microsoft Power App out of this, or you can work with Microsoft Power Automate to set up some automated processes. So back to the basics here of setting up our test list. There's a couple of ways you can do this. The first and seems to be most straightforward way is to click on the button that says Add Column. It'll pop up and give you some options for different kinds of columns people may want to add. You could add a single line of text if you're going to collect people's first and last names or manage information that can be kept in a text file. Multiple lines of text if you're going to be inputting longer data points or paragraphs of information. You could add locations, numbers, yes, no types of options, a person lookup field, which is really great if you're trying to associate specific items to employees within your organization. It'll look them up by email address. You can have a date time field, choice, hyperlink, or picture, or so on. So we'll just experiment with a couple of these. So this is the single line text. We'll put in, you give the title a name for the column, so we'll say first name. And then you can set, what kind of text it is. You have the choice to, again, change the column type if you made a mistake in how you chose it. If it is a value that you're going to use on every column or every item in this list, you can set a default value. Or if you're going to get more sophisticated, you can make calculated columns. But we're going to make this one first name, and we're going to leave it as a single line of text. And then you can see it pops up the name of the column. So then let's make a choice column or a yes no column. So we'll say maybe it has someone attended the training, so training attendance, and then types yes no, the default value. If you're going to use it as a way of record keeping, making sure staff has completed whatever mandatory training, the default value could be no, and then you have the choice later on to come in and toggle it to yes once they have completed the training. So this is one way you can create the columns. Another way to create columns, and when you really get into managing SharePoint lists that have many columns, like I created one the other day that had 88 columns, this view gets a little bit tedious because you'd have to constantly scroll back and forth to add the new columns. So if you click this little gear icon on the top of the screen, the settings icon, and click into that, then you have some options for general for the SharePoint site, adding pages and apps and contents, or you can go to the list settings to work on the settings of this specific list. And so there's some general settings that, if you get into more advanced programming with SharePoint, you could change some things. But where we're kind of working on now, that you can see there's a couple of columns that I've created, the first name and the training attendance. There are some default columns that are part of the SharePoint list. I'd mentioned the title earlier, and you can see that it's set as required. You can go into that item by clicking into that column, and you can do this for any column that you create, and you can make modifications to whether or not you want it to be required or not. This gets better. This makes it a little bit easier later on when you're managing data and inputting data, because the title may not be part of your actual list that you're trying to keep, and so you wouldn't want to require some input there. So you have that as a automatic column that's popped up, and then also the created by and created dates columns are part of the SharePoint list, and those can be used later on for looking at timeliness of how quick something was added to the list, and how quick you got someone checked off in the training attendance column as an example, and you can compare those. But anyway, to finish out adding some more columns, there's the option here to create column. So it's a similar kind of setup. You still got these same options for columns. There's a limited number of data types you can include in SharePoint. So these are here. So next we'll just say training cost is another column name, and we're going to say this is currency. And when you make the selection here of the column type, there are some values that do change below the bottom here. So like this was a currency column. You can have the contains information or not. That's the required. You can specify minimum and maximum values for number and currency columns. You can do some automation of the decimal points that are included, and then if it's a calculated value, you could change that. And then from currency, you have options to report out in many different types of currency as well. The default is U.S. currency. Okay, and then. So that's a brief overview of how you add columns to SharePoint. Once you're done with this, there's a couple ways you can go back to the list. You can go to the left side navigation and click into your list, or you can go here to the top and click the test list. All right, thank you.